This is a quick demonstration on how to use the recently released Fling Onyx for the web client. As you can see, I'm logged into the vSphere 6 web client, but I have a couple of new icons. I have one for the Onyx Fling, also one in the taskbar, and I have a record button at the top and another way to access the Fling console. If I click on that button, you can see that we can choose to create PowerCLI.net code here. We can clear the screen, we can start the recording, and we can save the information that we've come up with, or save the script. We can also search the script for various items. So let's take a look at how this might work. You can see I have a virtual machine here, and I might want to change one of the advanced functions. So under the VM options, one of the advanced functions that I might want to change that's hard to find is the maximum number of sessions. You can see currently this is set to 40 in my environment, but I might want to change this for my virtual machines to a different number. So this is how we would do it manually. We would go in there, we would go to the remote console options, and we would change the number to 40. Very easy. So let's click on the record button for the Onyx. And now we can go through and edit the settings like we would do normally. Go to the area that we showed a moment ago, change that number from 40 down to 10, which is the standard we want to set it to. So it goes through and changes it for that virtual machine. What we can do then is stop the recording. We can go into our Onyx console and we can see that we've now got some code in there. We can search for the number 10, which we changed it to, and realize that that's on line 14. So that gives us an indication of where the code is to actually change that to a number 10, but remember it's just for that virtual machine. So let's copy that code, paste it into our PowerShell browser, and make a change. So let's change that to 11 just to make sure that it still works. We'll hit the play there and we can see we returned a task. When we go into our web client, we can bring up the virtual machine, and we can clearly see that that's been changed to 11 for that virtual machine. The code works. But what if we want to alter that code? What if we want to make it not call the virtual machine by its actual managed object reference, but actually call it by the actual name of the virtual machine, making it this piece of code slightly easier to use and slightly more readable? So what we can do is we can change this to a get VM. In this case, we're going to do it for my new VM, and then we can change that to a get view to actually get the view of that virtual machine so that we can still change this. Let's change it to a 12 and hit play again. And now if we do a refresh in the web client, we can see that we've changed the number to 12, and the code is slightly more readable, so we can put any virtual machine in there and change it for any virtual machines. But the idea behind this is to create reusable code, so we might want to put it into a function, an advanced function, in where we specify a virtual machine and we change it for any virtual machine. So this allows the function to be created and then shared with others so that they can also gain the ability to set this setting. And it means we can use it for a number of different virtual machines and use it a lot easier. So we changed the function to set remote connections. You can see it takes a virtual machine here as an input, and we are now just going to change the code that we used to use that variable VM as the input, and then we have a function that makes this a lot easier. So now instead of calling the code, what we can do is we can use this function. So we can do a set remote connection, specify the virtual machine, and then get the virtual machine object for new VM, and we can change the number in the actual function if we want a hard-coded number to change it to 13. So let's go back. You can see we can do a refresh, and now we are changing the number to 13. But what if we want to make that even better? What if we want it to run on a number of virtual machines? We can easily make that change as well. We can say, for each of the virtual machines, make this change. So we're taking VM as an input here, and remember VM could be a number of virtual machines. And then we're saying for each of those virtual machines, run this set of code. So now we need to change this setting again to say the current object in the variable, which is the $_, current object in the pipeline, and change it to 14, push play, and now we have 14. And we can change this to a number of virtual machines. You can see I had VM 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in here. So we're basically setting it for all of these virtual machines now. And you could limit that to the virtual machines on a host or in a cluster or as part of a certain project. When we click Run Now, you'll see that it not only runs it for a single virtual machine, but we now have a function that runs for multiple virtual machines. And each of those is now has our advanced setting that we wanted to create. We can also make this a little bit easier to use as well. We could add a actual number. We could change the number here to say the number of connections. So let's create a new variable in here called num, and then we can change the connections to the $num variable, which we can specify as part of the function. Now we can choose num, and we can actually input that straight from our friendlier function. You can see now that the virtual machines, once we do a refresh, has changed. All of our virtual machines are now set to 10, and we have a nice friendly function showing you how to use that. This has been a quick demonstration that shows you how to use Onyx for the web client to create reusable PowerCLI functions that you can share with others who are trying to achieve the same task.